And I'm going to give you this one.
All right. Thank you.
Hi. Wow, there's lots of people in this room. I'm Melanie Menge. I am with Done Right Homes. My husband and I have been in business on paper since 2012. The original plan was to do flips. Then we decided we were going to do wholesale. And then, as I'll talk about tonight, we got our first house under contract and we went back to flips. So I wanted to share the first deal that we've done. Okay, thank you. And some encouragement for those of you who are just getting started. So, yep, that's me. We did a townhouse in Everett. So, like I said, we started in 2012, but for a year and a half, almost 2 years, we didn't really do a whole lot. We said we didn't really have money for very much marketing. We said I didn't have all the funding together for a deal. We didn't have our private lenders in place. And even though we had lots of training and lots of systems, we didn't really have lots of confidence that we were really going to make it all happen. So we did a lot more talking than actually doing, until finally in April I said to my husband, we need to do this. Like, we've invested a lot of money into this and we need to do it. And he said, if it's so easy, go do it yourself. And I decided to take over. And he's still very involved, but at that point I said, forget it, I'm gonna make this happen. And at that point started doing some marketing and started putting offers in on properties and talking to sellers. And my background is youth and family ministry. I run children's programs and youth programs, and I never ever thought I'd have anything to do with real estate, and it sounded like the most hideous thing to me. Like, I didn't ever think I would enjoy it, and I started doing it, and I'm like, I'm really having a blast. I'm having a really good time getting to know all these people and talking to sellers, and was really excited once I started getting going. So I got a call on a property in August off of my Craigslist ad. How much do Craigslist ads cost? Nothing. Okay, so the marketing budget excuse, it didn't matter, because this lead came off of zero marketing budget. So the woman had moved into a townhouse in 2009 when her husband passed away, and it was beautiful in 2009. It had just been redone, and they trashed it. It was ugly, dirty, gross. And now she was remarried and she moved out and she wanted to just get on with her life again. This kind of was her transitional home for when she was a widow, and now she was not, and she wanted out and she didn't want to fix it up at all. So I go in to meet her, and this is what her townhouse looked like. It's really hard to tell because, the bones of it were good, but it was just icky, dirty. The carpet was gross. It needed to be painted. In the kitchen, there was one little hole in the drywall that was under the master shower. So that was kind of the big question mark, because there's been a plumbing thing and it may or may not be a big deal, but I can't rip the ceiling open until it's my house. So that was kind of my question mark. So I go in with no background in real estate and flipping, and with my repair estimator, and do my estimate on how much it's going to cost to flip this thing and give her an offer. She at first was hoping for a little bit higher offer, but I said, well, when I sell it, I need to list it. I need to pay all of these fees and stuff. And she's like, okay, whatever, I'm good, cool. So she signs my paperwork. I'm like, wow, now what do I do? So we decide to, we were gonna wholesale it. I talked to some buy and hold people, and nobody bought on it. So we're like, well, it was $120,000. Wow. You don't buy properties in the Seattle area for $120,000. So this is too cheap for us not to do ourselves. So we decided we were gonna do it. My first estimate on repairs, $5,000. Carpet, paint, small repairs. If you're 1 week, we're done. Okay, this is as ridiculously easy a flip as you can get.
I love your honesty.
I don't have a background in this. If it wasn't this easy, I wasn't going to do it because I didn't know what I was doing yet. So our ARV we had at 166 and a projected profit of $17,000. I'm if I can make $17,000 in a week of work, that's probably worth it. So let's figure this out. So I start making calls. I've been trained how to do private money. I know how to find private lenders. And do you know what? I actually did. My first phone call, I got 60% of my funding. And then within another 4 days, I got the other 40%. So I had private lenders with 12% in points, no payments, no down payment. Wow, there goes the money excuse that we've been using for years. Like the marketing, no, we didn't pay any marketing. The not having money, well, when you have a deal, there's people who will fund it, which is what I'd always been told and hadn't actually acted on. And then what do you know? You have a deal and people will fund it because their investment is in the property and not in your confidence. You know, I mean, you've got to be somewhat knowledgeable in what you're doing, but your investment is in the property, and if it's a good deal, they're going to make money on their investment. So there goes my excuse number 2. So this is our rehab. I went from being a stay-at-home mom who works at a church to now being a work-at-home mom with 3 little kids who still works at a church. So my children are very involved in my rehab process. So there's my boys. I have a 9-year-old, an almost 6-year-old, and then my daughter, the 3-year-old. So there they are. At the first half of the rehab, they were closeted to the dining room because it was like the only room clean enough that I would let them be in. So they had their camping pad there and they just played their iPods. And then after the carpets were done, then they could go through the house. So there's my husband opening up the plumbing repair that was our big question mark. And I could have beat her up on the price on the plumbing repair, on the question of the plumbing repair, but she was already talking about other properties that she had for me. So I'm like, I think that I want to keep this relationship rather than the question of the plumbing repair, and it was $300 repair. And like, it was the right decision in that situation not to beat her up on a hole in the drywall. But then we did find, I missed the first time, there was a big dent in the refrigerator, so we had to replace the refrigerator.
Melanie, did you do an inspection?
We did not on this one. It was pretty fast, and it really looked so good that it was totally redone in 2009. So usually we would do an inspection, but on this one we didn't. So we hadn't planned originally to redo the refrigerator, but we bought a new refrigerator. We sold this one on Craigslist. This guy comes to our house to buy it because they didn't sell while we were at our house. This is a funny story, part of it. Asked Chris if the ice maker works. He's like, I don't know, we've never used it. We didn't think to try it. Well, why are you selling a refrigerator you've never used? Well, we flip houses and this was in the house and we just take it out of it. He's like, oh, well, I'm a realtor. I'm on my way to a property and I don't really care if I list it. So why don't you, and it sounds like it needs to be flipped, why don't you come with me? So Chris misses church that Sunday, goes over to a house that is 3 blocks away from my house that we drive by every day, and we didn't end up getting the property. He didn't take our offer, although he put a couple $1,000s into it and listed it, and it's not moving. So maybe he'll come back to us. But we got a lead through trying to sell this refrigerator on Craigslist. Another no marketing lead, right? No budget into this. In fact, we made $100. He paid us $100 to take the refrigerator and gave us a lead. The very end of the rehab got a little long. At least it was the end of the rehab so they could sleep on the carpet, as opposed to the first half of the rehab where they weren't allowed near the carpet because it was so gross. We had to pay extra to the carpet guy to have it removed because there was like dog pee in one of the rooms and it was just gross. But it was nice new carpet at that point when all the kids fell asleep on it. It's a cute picture. So my rehab estimate was a little off. It took me 2.5 weeks just in scheduling all the people. I found out finding a painter in September is kind of hard for interior because they're all rushing to do the exterior painting before the weather goes bad. So it took me longer to find a painter than I thought. It took me $7,000 instead of $5,000 to do the rehab. But then we listed it for $1,000 higher than we had originally planned. So it ended up only being $1,000 difference. When we first set our ARV, we were going to be right in the middle of all the properties for that area. And right before we listed, all the cheaper ones sold. So when we listed, we were literally the cheapest thing in the entire zip code that wasn't mobile. So we had a net full price offer in 48 hours. Okay, really, this was too easy. So here's our afters. I didn't do before and after next to each other because it doesn't, we just brought it back to what it was in 2009. You know, we repainted and we replaced everything, but it looked real nice and like a beautiful townhouse when we were done with it. So our final numbers were our purchase price of $120. We put $6,939 in repairs. Our financing was $5,521. We the sold price, they bumped it $4,500 and then asked us to pay $4,500 in their closing price. So the sold price was $171,450 and we made $16,749. So I was off $250 on how much we thought we were going to make on the property, which, considering I'd never done one before, I was feeling pretty good about. So this deal was done with no money for marketing and very little personal funding. We put a couple $1,000s of our own money into the deal. And what I didn't know, that I didn't have the confidence in, I went and learned, right? I just called somebody and asked a question and figured out what I didn't know. And none of my excuses mattered. So that's kind of why I wanted to share, because I've spent a year and a half with all these excuses, and I know that we all have the same excuses if we're not doing anything, and none of my excuses mattered. Not that I all want you to flood Craigslist, but go put a Craigslist ad out and you've got free marketing if you don't have money this week to send letters. I mean, there's ways to do marketing. Since then, I waited at the bank for my wire to come in, and then I took the money out and I purchased our next rehab. Like literally, I sat there with the app checking to see when the wire went through, and then I walked into the bank and took out the money. It was there like 5 minutes before it went to the next house. I thought I'd wholesale the lease option, but Mariska needs to seal the deal here on my lease option lead that came through Craigslist, that I didn't want to do a sandwich lease option, and I knew that they would be good at it, so I basically was wholesaling that to them. The seller emailed me this week with another relative who has another house who wants to sell to me in January. And in 1 week, when I put this new rehab under contract, I found 5 new possible private money people. So none of my excuses mattered, you know, and I just wanted to encourage people, like, there's our house, our new house. It's in Redmond by Microsoft, so if you know anybody who's going to want a gorgeous house near Microsoft in February, have them call me, or you call me, because it's going to be beautiful. It's definitely a lot bigger project than our townhouse was, but it gave me the confidence to move on to the next one that was a much bigger deal. And that's me, if you want to contact me. So,
Melanie, awesome. Thank you. How long have you been a REAPS member?
I have been a REAPS member. I joined in April when I decided I was taking over from my husband.
Okay, so not even a year yet.
Yeah.
And you said you had taken a bunch of training on private lending?
We are Fortune Builders members, so we joined Fortune Builders in 2012 and have ongoing excellent training and hadn't done enough with it.
Awesome.
So now we are using it, and we have found it to be very valuable for us.
Is your husband here?
No, he's babysitting. Not babysitting. He's got the kids.
Right. It's not babysitting
It's not
when they're your
babysitting.
own kids.
Yes.
I tell my husband that quite often.
I know, I do too.
Does anybody have a question for Melanie? Okay, stand up, if you would, please. Speak into the mic.
Hello. How did you write up the loans with 2 private lenders to protect them?
I gave them a promissory note, and I had the title company do a deed of trust, and I put them as lost payees on the property insurance, so that if, you know, the building burned down while I owned it, they would be the ones who would get their money back first. I had a lawyer look at my promissory notes beforehand. I got them from another local investor and then had them looked over by a lawyer. And I just used the title company. I had to pay a little bit more for the deed of trust, but those looked scarier to me to fill out myself, so I let them do it.
So there was 2 of them?
There were 2 lenders, yes. So I had a first position and a second position.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Melanie, what does your Craigslist ad say?
I have a number of them, and they're all different. So a lot of times will have the same investor reply to me 3 times in one day because they don't realize they're all my ad. So some of them have my logo on it. Some of them have just my name and phone number. They say, I buy houses. They say, are you tired of being a landlord? I have one with a really ugly house picture on it, and I say, do you have a house like this in your neighborhood that you want to get rid of? Send me the address and I'll try to buy it and fix it. So I have just a number of, I get really weird responses to that one sometimes. I had one lady really mad, like, why do you want my taxes to go up? I'm like, okay, keep your ugly houses, I don't care. Like, why would you take time to write me? Like, just keep your ugly house, that's okay. I have lots of contractors respond to that one going, well, I'll tell you if you hire me to fix it. But that's okay. I weed through the dumb responses in order to get the deals. So.
Awesome. Oh, hold on. One last question. How often do you place your Craigslist ads?
In theory, my intention is to place like 5 of them a day. And then every 3 days you can renew them. So once you do 3 days in a row of my 5 ads, then on the 4th day, I just hit repost, 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 and I'm done. Usually I slack off for a couple days and then I've got to redo them and stuff. But if I were smart, I would be there every day and just keep them going.
All right, you guys, give Melanie a big round of applause. Oh, thank you. Hey, Will and